Hey everybody, good morning, happy Friday, and welcome back to Reaper Pro-Tips with me, your host, Anne, and disembodied hands, Justin and Quindy, and sometimes even John. How are you all today? Hello. Much hype, Clavicus, much hype. Yes, if it makes you happy, then yes, right. Hello, Nomazik, hello, hello. Right, that if it makes you happy thing is a little bit loaded, right? Oh, good evening then, Duchess. Because dinner. Because Europe, right? So cool. Welcome to the new home. To those of you who missed yesterday's stream uh, and my test stream the day before. Welcome to my new house, my new abode. Oh, you know what I need? I need light. 1 second. Boop. There we go. My house is still a work in progress. There, that's better. Yeah, the floodlights, like, there's ceiling lights, and they help a lot. Then I don't look like I'm up against, like, a shadow. But once I have the screen in place behind me, then it'll be cool. Cranston, a pen. Okay, so anybody who's ever moved into a new place totally gets how you just slowly congeal. Like little things get moved into the places where you need them a little bit at a time, or at least that's the way my scatterbrain functions. Like, yeah, I can like put my energy into like totally organizing a thing like my hobby bookshelf, but more it's like, oh yeah, I know where that goes now. I know where this goes now. You know, so my kitchen is slowly congealing into a unit that I can like work with. Yeah, Kaz, once it's together, because this is, you know, like I said, I have a Japanese screen on order that'll go behind me to kind of like, cut off the rest of the room. Because this is a double new office. This side is my streaming and the other side is my writing spot. So I wanted a clear cutoff between the two. So I decided to indulge because I've always wanted a Japanese screen. So this was my excuse. But yeah, good morning, everybody. So we're going to do freehand and yellow. Oh no, and I forgot my palette. Man, I'm just a wreck this morning. You can tell that I'm still moving, still pulling things together, still trying to like get my life in order, right? Total. Yeah, kind of like it is really feng shui though. I mean, it's like I kind of listen to my gut, especially in setting up the kitchen and the work with the hobby room. Because it's like you're in a whole new space. You know you're going to lose track of where stuff is. So you have to kind of listen to your gut and say, where is the most intuitive place for this to go? At least that's the way I've been functioning. So I've been able to like memorize my kitchen's new layout super fast because I'm doing that. Anyway, need palette or we can't paint. And much as I would love to chat to you guys for an hour and a half, I don't think Reaper's paying me for that. 1 second. Like, that's what Sadie gets paid for. Or got paid for when she was streaming. Yeah, there we go. Fantastic. It took me about that long too, Duchess. As far as, like, getting to a place in life where I'm happy and I'm, like, feel like I'm exactly where I need to be, doing exactly what I need to do. Like, I'm there. Like, I'm working on it every day, and it's so awesome. So... yeah, my biggest advice, like my little niece and nephew, they're so tiny. They're not tiny. Okay, Graham, if you're watching this. But you know, like Graham is 14 and Lauren is 17. And they've got like so much time ahead of them. And there's so much pressure on them to figure out what they want to do, right? So it's like, no kids, trust us. You could screw up for 30 years. Just screw up for 30 years, you'll figure it out. We hope. Please figure it out in 30 years, right? 40 years ago. Yeah, we're a little bit better than that because we have so little stuff, Twisted Oma. Because we lived in such a small place, because David has lived in small places for so long, other than our miniatures collections, we really don't explode with stuff. So, like, I have a lot of books to put on shelves. But, I mean, the kitchen is almost there. Like, I need maybe a couple more trips to the old place. And I've got space for everything, which is so nice. But yeah. Yes, we do. We stream awesome. You're right, Hef. Yeah. Yeah. Hephaestus, you're really funny. But yeah, we are pretty awesome. If I dare say so myself. Morning, Val. But yeah, exactly. And then getting your life going doesn't allow a lot of time for unpacking. So I've been making time for unpacking usually every night. Like, cause when I'm tired and can't do anything creative, I can still like kind of go, okay, where does this go? I grab a box and unpack it. Because the sooner everything here gets the way that I'm like super happy with, like then my life is like perfect. Like dare I tempt the fates? But my life is awesome. Oh, you scaled down for the new house. Yeah, and you go through that, right? You go through why did we get all this? I tend to throw out, up until this point, I threw out about a third of my life every time I moved. Because if I hadn't looked at it for like 5 years, like when was I ever gonna, I seriously asked myself when I was ever going to use it. And I gave away a lot of stuff. I know you guys have heard me say that before. Gave away a lot of minis to friends and stuff like that. Sold some stuff. And tossed a lot. So yeah, getting from house level down to David's small apartment level, and then now we're out in house again. But now the good thing is that I only have the stuff I really need for the most part. If you count a closet full of miniatures as stuff you really need, which we do, right? Oh, Clavicus, thank you for the gift sub for Hephaestus. He totally deserves a gift sub for that. Oh, 18 months, sub and a half anniversary, Magnetic Gumby. Hello. What tiger? White tiger. Got it. See, it takes me a minute. Hi, White Tiger. I'm Anne. I work for Reaper Miniatures. We paint on this show. We're also talking about like moving and the trials and tribulations thereof, because this is my new office and it's a shambles. I just moved, so I'm getting everything in sync. But one of the things that is in sync is my work painting area. So we have. Let's go. We're gonna finish the yellow on the back here, guys. Now today. We're going to sketch in a tree design. I kind of figured out that I wanted to do something ambitious, so we'll see. You bought Reapers for 10 plus years. Well, cool, awesome. I have worked for Reaper. Actually, let me do the math. Oh, guys, this is scary. So next April 1st, because I have the best work anniversary ever, is my 19 years with Reaper Mark. So that's how long I've been with them, White Tiger. So they got all my best years. I designed Reaper's paint line, and then I moved out here to be with my guy out to the West Coast. So I moved away from Texas, and so Ed very nicely kept me on as a streamer. Because Reaper are fantastic people. They are also fantastic to work for. In my opinion, I'm somewhat biased, obviously. You can call me whatever you want. Really, I won't even take offense. It's brush. I'm with a brush today. Although that's my mixing brush. We are not going to paint this elf with this gigantic floofy brush. No, indeed, our brush is more like a sword or a pen. It is extremely sharp and pointy. So, yeah. But we're going to fix this a little bit, because I need a little bit more yellow highlighting on this dress. Brush keeper, yeah, you can call me that. Oh, good. I'm glad you love the paints. Yeah, that's what I did. I started as staff painter back in 2003, long time ago. And then one of my initial responsibilities on my official job description at that time, which Ed pretty much just, I don't know, he pulled things out of a hat. If you're watching this, Ed, oops. But one of my initial things he wanted me to do was to design a new paint line that could compete with Vallejo at that time. So he wanted a dropper bottle line. And I was all about that. So I learned just enough paint chemistry to make me dangerous. And I dove in and pretty much, yeah, with a lot of work and about 6 months of R&D and then continuous. Like, once you create something like this, it's alive. You just continue iterating on it and trying to make it better. So the first, batch came out 2004 or 5, I think. 2005, I think. No. We had pre-bottles at 2004, the first ReaperCon. We had some taped on labels, like prototypes. So, yep. Yeah, the triad system is something I really wanted. Although lately I've been telling y'all that, you know, I think that I think that actually they work better in pentads. Or work as well. You know, it helps you even cut down more on steps, like in sets of 5. So, oh good, yeah, Learn to Paint kits are awesome. Oh yeah, I'm down in California now. I'm in the Bay Area, White Tiger. So, where's North? North is that away. Hi, I'll wave at you. Actually, my boyfriend is from the Seattle area, so. Let's see here. Brush, brush, brush. I need my bestest brush. All right. So we're using lemon yellow for highlights here. We've got some green in the picture here for very more subtle shadows. We wanted to go kind of a little bit colder, so she's ending up more of a chartreuse, which I actually like. If I really wanted to go yellow, I could continue to glaze like warmer color over this. That's one trick we've been using, is to take a very warm yellow, an orangey yellow. You can thin it way down and put it over the top of the green yellow if you want it to actually go more neutral. So if you start out with a very cold yellow and you want to warm it up and make it more toward kind of a middle yellow, then doing that kind of thing will mute out your green and it will warm up your yellows. Alerts are off. Yeah, David's parents are still up in Seattle area. We were going to go up there for the holidays, but it looks like they're going to come down because we have a new house with a guest room. Go figure. So that just, which is good because we have to travel right after Christmas. So then we don't have to worry about like flying to Seattle and then flying elsewhere right from Seattle. Not move any further south. Yeah, warm weather's not your jam, huh? Warm weather is my jam. So I'm actually quite pleased here. I like it that we can just drive, you know, a few hours to the mountains if we want snow. Like I can go, and when I need a snow dose, I can just drive. Drive, hang out, maybe, you know, rent a room where it's really cold, remind myself of what Wisconsin was like when I was growing up and why I don't live in that climate anymore. We never have alerts on? Yeah. I was going to say, I usually have to look. We don't have the little, we don't have a pop-up zombie like I do. Zombie George. But that's cool because alerts can get disruptive, especially when you're teaching. So actually I am going to mix one highlight here. I'm going to do 2 drops of lemon yellow and 2 drops of white, just so we can bring this up a bit more. And this designs I'm thinking of, although I'm going to simplify it, and that's kind of what the fun part of this will be. So I was looking at a Tree of Life design, and I really like this one. I think we'll, instead of doing a circle though, we're going to do it along the hem of her dress and see if I can just kind of bring it up like that kind of thing. I'm not sure if this will translate well. The problem with its designs is really complicated, so I'm going to have to simplify it and not do as many twiggy things. I'm going to have to really break it down. So I figured that this would be fun for us guys on this model. She has a lot of space back here for freehand. We've already done freehand on the inside of her dress on the front. So I thought by showing you guys how I kind of break this down and make it doable on a smaller scale, that it would work. Now, one thing you can do, thanks to the interwebs, right, is you could actually put your model right next to this and continue to shrink this down, you know, until it gets closer, until you hit the actual, you know, where the phone won't go any smaller. But, and you can kind of judge and see how much you can actually see or how much we might be able to actually use. So here we need to shrink it probably a little more, but you can see how the little fine details kind of get lost when you shrink the design, right? And that's what you have to keep in mind when you're putting freehand on a 28mm model, is that, like, for all these little trees, you can't even see the details, right? So the smaller you make a design, the more you have to simplify it to make it actually, you know, get the idea across, essentially. So freehand is fun. Thanks, Hephaestus. Yeah, just checking up on chat here. But anyway, so yeah, we're going to try to do that kind of tree. And I'm probably, first thing I'm going to do is define the right side, which is the short side, right? The trunk is off to the right. So we have to define where the trunk is. We can leave a lot to the imagination with the little branches that curl off this way. So these don't really, like, we can have these out of the picture. What we really want is we want the trunk probably coming up like here. And then, you know, if we don't have actually paint the branches on the right side, we're good. We just need to be able to actually bring branches over on this side and the roots over here. So we'll see if this bites me. I think I can make it work. This is fraught with peril, however, even more than most of my freehand is, guys, because we're working over a light color. And that means that it's going to be real hard to reestablish stuff after if we screw it up. You have to pretty much go over something. If you're etching in with a dark green, as I'm going to do, that dark green is going to, you know, yellow doesn't have great coverage. So what we have to do if we screw up is we have to put down white over that dark green first and then put the yellow down over it. So, hey, Basement. Yeah, we've been having a lot of fun with this model. She's one of my more faves that we've done recently. For one thing, I really like chartreuse and greenish yellows and yellow greens, so I'm really digging how she's turning out. Let me get in focus. There we go. Nice and big on your monitors, everybody. But yeah, I decided I did want some freehand down there, just because there's a lot of detail up here. So that helps to balance the model out and carries that dark green down through here. So you're repeating colors across the model. So you've got your dark green and then you pass it down. And then the little purple flower there helps to tie into, it's actually violet. It's a blue violet with the crystal and the wraps and that and the hilt, which I have to highlight. And we got little touches of that violet color across the model. And then the sword is actually going to be, the runes are going to be gold like we etched in on the back. We just didn't get around to it yet. A lot of times, since we're only streaming for like an hour and a half at a time, we don't have enough time to like finish a lot of stuff. So we end up going back in and, you know, repeating ourselves over the course of several streams. And then for those of you who are brand new to the stream, we do a different model every day. We have a 6 model rotation. So if you can only tune in on Wednesdays, for example, then, you know, you'll always see a different model. You'll see all 6 in, you know, as it goes. Another thing to tell you is that ReaperCon is next week. And that means that I will not be on from Wednesday through the following Monday. I'll be at ReaperCon. So you will be able to see me in person. And some of you will be taking classes with me in person. That's my weekend, by the way, is finish my handouts. Oh, do we have our green users? We do! Hey, Bob and Julie. I think I'm going to thin that a little bit more. Since I put white into this, I did a half and half lemon yellow and white just to get a really high highlight on here. But since I put pure white in there, it's going to be very high coverage. And so if I want it to blend nicely, I have to add extra water. The lighter you go, the more water you generally have to add in order to get a good blend. Because lighter usually means more white is in the paint. Even if you don't like realize it, it's usually there. And that white gives the paint better coverage, but it means that if you need it to blend nicely into another color, you have to add extra water. Yeah, I wondered about that, Quindy. Ready for the ReaperCon? Yeah, we will have fun. Yes, Shidakami, this is indeed the Bones USA version, and we are going to continue to do Bones USA in this slot. So we'll do the next model we do once we're done with Lysette, we'll transition to Darius the Blue. And after that, we'll kind of look at I'll look at the other Bones USAs and see. I think I've got the Rogue also, the one that Miranda painted. So we'll see what we can do, but we'll always try to do Bones USA in this slot. I kind of like that idea. Because I think I love painting the models because the Bones USA have such great detail. They're just fantastic. So they may actually take over more of the stream as Reaper produces more sculpts. But for now, we have a lot of Greek Odyssey to work on too. So, alrighty. So let's get back here and get some of this highlighted. I do have most of my highlights on. It's a little hard to see. There we go. So that's more like what it looks like in person. So we do have some fairly relatively dark green shadows in the sleeves, especially here it goes a lot more subtle because these folds aren't very deep, so you don't have a lot of shadow in there. It wouldn't be very dark, right? So the way you build contrast if you want these folds to really stand out is that you add more highlights. We're already working on such a light color that can be challenging, so we may have to add in a little bit of darker green way up at the top here in the shadows just to bring that detail out a little bit more. But again, once we add freehand in here, nobody's going to be looking at our shading and highlighting on our folds. They're all going to be looking at the tree. So, oh, that's right. You're not going to be there, Bob and Julie. That's a bummer. Kickstarter one day, yeah. Yeah, when you are when you have that family load, that's definitely like taking up your time. Like I only have to like take care of myself and one David, and I feel like I got less time because I cook. So yesterday, just to fill some time here while I do this mindless highlighting, and then I'll talk a little bit about the highlighting. But yesterday our gardener came, our new gardener, who is actually the gardener who originally planted this entire yard and designed it. And it's one of the things that David and I love about the house, so it was nice to actually be able to talk to him and find out like about what things were. Like he knew what all the plants were because he planted them. So we found out we have an orange tree, guys. It's a baby and it's in the front yard. So now we've got, and he says one of the trees is actually not a lemon, a Meyer lemon, but it's actually a lime. So we have lemon, lime, and orange. I have always wanted citrus trees. So, oh no, Bob and Julie, that's so sad. I'm sorry. Sending good, happy vibes to you. Because it's so draining to have to deal with that. But totally understand. So this is an example. Like I'm getting a little bit of streaky here because I didn't thin my yellow enough. Because lemon yellow, even though it looks like a very bright yellow, it does still have white in it. Yeah, I'm so excited because like if we could just keep it small, like that's why we're employing a gardener. Because let's face it, me with giant hedge trimmers, like it's gonna take like days to keep this yard in check because we have a lot of hedges and trees and things, and I would probably break my neck falling off a ladder. So we're hiring a professional because it's cool. And yeah, so if we keep all the fruit trees trimmed down so they don't totally pelt us with fruit, I'm gonna really enjoy this. This is really cool. We can actually make fresh orange juice, fresh squeezed orange juice, which David will love because he adores orange juice. And I can have a little too. So yeah, that's exciting. And we have a baby avocado tree, guys. That is even more exciting because I love avocados. So you have a lime tree and an avocado tree. So all we need is to grow some cilantro and we have guacamole. We have a guacamole yard. Your parents grew to regret yours? Yeah, actually what I wanted to do is, we have a really strong neighborhood association, Miss Tim. So what I was actually going to do was contact them and ask if they've thought about having a market of sorts, a neighborhood market, where people can just kind of like a cookie bake-off, but everybody brings like their produce, right? And trades. We don't have plums, we have a fig. Yeah, that's fine. I'm not in a hurry, Luthar. But it's still pretty cool that we have one. I love trees. Like, I'm just, like, I used to do bonsai. I really love trees. But yeah, I think that it would be really cool to have a neighborhood, like, produce trade. Because, I mean, our neighbors already, like, Mike and Debbie on one side have already, like, given David tomatoes. Really beautiful tomatoes, too. Like, deep red. Like, super, the kind you can never find at the grocery store. So maybe that would be a good idea because everybody's got all these, figs and plums and apples and, everybody's got fruit trees out here. And a lot of them have vegetable gardens too. So like I dug up 3 carrots yesterday, guys. I feel so like, I'm going back to my Wisconsin farm girl roots. Like that was my mom's family. My mom's side of the family, she grew up in a big farming family in Wisconsin. And grandma, when we went over to her house, always had this huge, huge vegetable garden that I loved picking things out of. So totally I'm having too much fun. I'm having way too much fun. See, I haven't ever tried figs except for like in cookies. So I'm looking forward to that. But I like dates. So if they taste at all like dates, I'm good. Oh, you have a grapefruit tree. Yeah, I love grapefruit too. But yeah, I think that getting like a little neighborhood produce trade just like a few times a summer, like would be kind of fun. Maybe once a month, like starting in June, July, August, and then do a fall one. They may already do it, but if not, I would totally, I could see myself getting involved in the neighborhood association out here. They seem like nice people. Yay. Good deal. So what I'm doing, and I'm going to show you guys now the brush stroke that I'm doing here. Oh, wow. 3 oranges. I don't think I could drink that much orange juice. Oh, wow. Yeah, you totally do. They would probably be happy to have somebody take some of those oranges off their hands, Twisted Oma. Hey, Jelly. But yeah, our figs are getting ripe in the front yard, so we'll see how those go. All right, so what we're going to do here, now that we've gotten this, we've more or less smoothed it out a bit. So when you are adding highlights via layering, I'm going to do the layering brush stroke that we talked about yesterday when Francis was on. I'm putting a highlight on the yellow. We'll see if this actually comes in or if I need a little white in the frame to make it show up. All right. So when you're doing this, when I'm dealing with a broad flared end of the dress, I don't mind using a horizontal stroke down here on the bottom. But when you're doing folds, you really want to do a stroke that goes across the fold. And the reason is that if you do a vertical line to highlight, which is what a lot of people do in the beginning, your eye is going to pick that up. Like, it's just going to look like long streaks. It's never going to look blended. It's never going to like smoothly transition. Because if you've got a long vertical surface and you put a long vertical line there, no matter how much you try to blend it in, your eye is good enough to, it's going to see that. It's never going to accept it as a blend. But if you go against the grain and go crosswise on it, you can much easier create the illusion of blending. So you kind of want to go across the fold. Now you can see right away that you can, well, oh no, now it's dried, so you can see it blending in. So I could probably thin this just a little bit more. And another thing I do when layering, which a lot of people don't talk about, they always talk about just, doing your layer. But I build up additional layers of a given color. So you can see how much brighter that fold looks now than the folds around it, because I've added just that little highlight. One treat of one glass. Yeah, that's a weird one, Twisted Oma. Oh, you have people offer apples and plums? That's great, White Tiger. Yeah, I really like it. I mean, both of our neighbors seem pretty cool. We have a retired couple on one side, and then our other neighbor on the other side is also retired, but she's single, and she's active in the local political scene. She's very, very into it. And she also is terribly into gardening. Like, her backyard is insane. She's that's where she puts her energy since she retired. So it's pretty cool. And we have a lot of young families, though. I walked by the school. We're actually on the same street as the grade school. And apparently the family who used to own this house, the husband was a school teacher there. And I'm just going to go across the grain. Now, one thing you might want to do is and this is what we were talking about yesterday, when you've got the layering brush stroke, let's see if I can get this to show up. This color is so light. Let me see if I can get it to do it. So this is really thin paint, and I'm using a bigger brush. It means I'm dabbing off the paint a lot, because I want to be able to do a really faint. Okay, so you can kind of see it there. So you can see when I'm doing this brush stroke, can you see how it starts out really transparent, but then it gets heavier here? Because when I lift up my brush, I'm leaving that little puddle of paint. See it? That's the layering brush stroke. That's how, if you're not wet blending, but you're putting wet paint over dry and you're trying to create the illusion of the blend, that's exactly what you want. Because then you start your brush stroke down near the shadow and you pull the brush stroke up. Now here I actually need some regular yellow. One second. My green shadow goes up really high here. I just noticed it. But if you do it that way, then essentially when you lift your brush up, you're lifting it up on this higher area. And so you're leaving that deposit of lighter paint exactly where you want it. Yeah, this needs more thinning. Also, yellow always needs more thinning for layering than you think it does. Yeah, apple cider is one thing I can't do. I try to eat, if I'm going to eat apple, I try to eat them whole. because the juice is just like way too many carbs for me. Orange is the same way, so I have to be like not doing a lot, but I can do parts of the whole fruit. So, and lemon and lime are just fine. I'm looking forward to making some orange vinaigrette, orange citrus vinaigrette dressing. So I do love my vinaigrettes. I love citrus vinaigrettes. But it's a baby orange tree, so it'll probably take a while to get to the point where it'll have fruit. Well, hello to you too, Mr. Crow. Everybody's a critic. I don't know if you heard him. There's a very loud caw outside of my window. So yeah, so as we go in here and as we do these little lines, also if you did do a vertical brushstroke and you've got some lines that you don't like, the way to get rid of them is to come at them from the side. So interrupt the line with little dashes and break it up, make it look fuzzy. And you know you've got a good layering stroke when you can do that little thing I showed you. And this is actually even a little thick because you can see kind of the edge here. Ideally, you would really not be able to make that out, and you'd see a much stronger puddle on this side. But when you've got a lot of white in it, then it can be hard. You got to thin way down. Yeah, right. Yeah, Michael's stalking me already now. I didn't stalk him when he moved to his new house. Awesome. I like crows a lot, so I'm A-okay with one hanging out in the tree over there in our neighbor's yard, cawing at me. We have hummingbirds too. I saw one the other day, and then he got chased off by another one. So there are definitely hummingbirds around here. We have hummingbird flowers, but they're between cycles right now. But yeah, I absolutely love this yard. It's way cool. We're talking about getting patio furniture and stuff. We've got a little bit of patio furniture, but we have like 2 patios technically. So let's come at this from exactly that side. So it's hard to see because it's so light. But you always want to use this kind of brush stroke. And I'm shrinking the brush stroke as I go up. You guys noticed over here probably that I was just doing little dots when and I stopped around here. And the reason is you can see there's a shadow cast by the scabbard here. So when you're putting in a very light highlight, don't carry it all the way up. If something is casting a shadow, you want to stop short of that thing. You mostly want it where the dress is flaring out and catching the light. You can see that light now, that little much lighter color on the top of these folds. And even over here, see that really light color. And that helps give us some definition. Let's get this palette in frame. Now you can see it more. There we go. So now we can see a bit more of our folds. We're getting more definition on this. Yeah, I really love them too, Zaku. Yeah, they're really territorial little birds. And one hummingbird needs a lot of territory because they get so little nectar out of each flower. So they can get very territorial. I learned that when I was reading about them. It kind of made me decide not to get a feeder. That and like having to remember to clean it. I thought that might be fraught with peril for me. So I was like, flowers are better. Flowers, I just have to remember to feed the flowers. I don't have to remember to clean the flowers. I do know my weaknesses. So when you get to the bottom of the dress, or the bottom of like a cape or whatever, then it's okay. When you've got these big broad areas, it's perfectly okay to use a vertical brush stroke then. Because now you're dealing with this wide scalloped area. So instead of a little vertical fold. So doing that is just peachy. And the bottom of a cape or a dress or a loincloth is exactly where it's going to flare out and catch the light. So you can see the difference. See how pale that looks, and this doesn't have that sharp definition. This is where you can really bring out the edge and really, catch the eye, make that sharp highlight there to really make it pop out. They are cute little jerks, yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've got bees, and there's wasps around here. I figure I like flowers anyway, so We don't have a lot. Our front yard is actually planted in really drought friendly. So it's actually more like an Arizona front yard. It's really cool. I should actually post a picture of it up on the... And it's got little path lights that are solar powered, which I think is awesome. There we go. So we got a nice pale edge coming up there. I don't know. I mean, some bats like fruit and stuff, so maybe. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've got squirrels for sure, so. Eek. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of bees. I don't have an allergy to bee stings as far as I know. I've never been stung. Knock on wood somewhere. Unfortunately, the closest like heavy wood is like my floor, so I'm not gonna like bend down and knock on it. But yeah, we definitely have squirrels because one startled me the other day by landing on our roof with vigor. There we go. So now we're getting these folds nice and tight. Now that's really looking pretty down here. We'll come up and we'll tune this stuff up here next. And then we'll come back and at least before the end of this stream, we'll get to starting to map out that freehand. And we can talk about how I'd start it. And then we'll continue it over the course of streams after ReaperCon, since we're pretty much down to, we've only got 2 streams before ReaperCon, so we'll have Bronze Golem and Scarlet Herald, or Crimson Herald. And then we'll go to ReaperCon. And I'll have the models there, guys, that I'm going to give to Ron, so if you want to see them in person, you can, if you're coming. I'm going to come up and just put a little bit of the white highlight just at the top. When you've got little bunchy folds like this, you don't want to put that really light yellow highlight on all of it. You mostly want to concentrate toward the middle, just to give it a little extra pop. Oh, yuck. Yeah. Those would freak me out. I would call it an exterminator stat. Big bugs do freak me out. For sure. So mostly I'm keeping my bright yellow, my really light yellow highlight in the middle of my previous highlight, just to make those things. And I'm leaving it out of this area entirely because, again, you can see the shadow falling from her hair, and there's kind of a fold here, and then it kind of recedes because it goes under the arm, right? So you don't want your highest highlight there. You want to concentrate your highest highlight up. That's how you get like nice shading, is kind of being conscious of, if you turn the model, can you even see this area? If I turn the model toward the top of the arm, like that whole area, that whole fold area down here, that totally falls like right off. See it? And that means that if the light's coming from above, it's not going to hit down there. So leaving this area, that greenish shadow, is perfect. All right. So now we'll go over on the other side. And again, I'm going to be focusing my highlights just toward the top of the arm and the middle of the fold. And just that little touch, though, really helps bring out the folds and the details. Like so. So now we can see some light falling there. Yeah, when you get really close to white, when you get to a really light highlight, you keep a decent shadow. Like that shadow is not very dark at all, that green there. Hold on, let me hit the top of the arm here. This is all bunched up here. But that's how you get contrast and make little details come out on your models, is you've got a fairly, medium shadow and a really light highlight, or you've got a dark shadow and like a medium light highlight. But the more range of contrast between your shadow and your highlight, the more like pop it all gets. So the highlights down here are a lot more subtle, and the highlights up here like pop higher. and harder because you've got the shadow closer to the highlight. This is why on my own stream I'll probably start painting, once after ReaperCon, I might start painting a little bit of my Dungeons and Doggies figures because they have a lot of tiny detail and they'd be a good one to show that kind of exercise on. Because they're tiny adventuring doglets with lots of like packs and pouches and stuff. All right, and I feel like I need that highlight now on the front first, so we're going to go ahead and do that. And that should take us almost to stretch break, and then I can stretch and start sketching in that tree. You guys all happy for the weekend? Do you have any plans? It's getting to the end of summer. Can you believe it? Doggy bags, I know, right? Just a little bit of that pale like makes those bits of folds come out. Oh yeah, color shift dragons. They actually look really good because they're big, right? The bigger the model, the better the color shift paints work. They tend to be very hard to make work on little models unless you are doing like a dress, something with a lot of area, or a cape. Just trying to touch up some of these things that maybe got a little bit of shadow on them, tighten them up a bit. Again, putting a light next to a dark like her skin is really going to make that demarcation come out. I really like this model. Really happy with how she's turning out. I think now that Grumpy Cat is done, I think, yeah, this one and the Half Orc Wizard are my two faves, I think. Right now. There we go. Now let's get down here, and we want to thin a little bit more so that our blending works well. Since we're not going to put freehand over the yellow part of the bottom of the dress, it means my layering consistency needs to be perfect so I can get good blends. Ooh, Ren Fair. Yeah, our Ren Fair starts this fall. I'm really excited. Oh, did you do the initial adventure? Good. Cool. Yeah, what to pack for ReaperCon. Yeah, I have to work on my ReaperCon stuff too. Yeah. All right. Well, it's nice meeting you, White Tiger. I hope you have time to come back. We're always here, like same time every weekday, except like I said, ReaperCon will be out. But generally, it's every weekday from 11:30 a.m. USA Central Time. And we do about an hour and a half. So it's great to meet you. Good luck. Have a great weekend. Good luck with the hornet's nest. Yeah, Twisted Oma for sure. 3 hours, doable. That's what I used to drive to go up to Oklahoma City for puppy evaluations on the weekend. It's not too bad. I just have to see what I can get done for handouts. I've been working on one. The color class is a lot of talking, so it's like I like to have a handout for that one. Plus, I know that people won't retain most of it, even if they take notes. So having a nice reminder. So we've got that blend right coming up there on that fold. I'm going to bring this one up on that. I just base coat with a color Eat to Surf. I do not prime my bones. I just wash them. I do wash them. If I don't wash them, then I probably would have to prime them. But I wash them with a little bit of really hot water and a bit of dish soap. Rinse well, leave dry. Now when you get up to narrow folds, guys, then you can do a vertical stroke, but just a little one. Some folds are just so narrow, you've got no room, so you've got to. You just have to do like the vertical brush stroke on it. But yeah, I've never had a problem with the paint sticking with not priming them, so I just don't. There we go. We've got those nice folds coming out. I think our yellow, I need to hit this side over here. Then we'll do a stretch, and then we'll do our, start our freehand on the back. But yeah, I just wash them with a bit of dish soap and hot water. Rinse really well by just slushing them around in a bowl of water till it runs clean. And then I leave them dry overnight, and I've never really had to worry about priming. I think part of the reason I don't is that when Ed first had this idea about the bones, when we first discovered that you could really paint them without priming them, like that was kind of exciting for us because we wanted stuff for paint and take. And so in my head, I'm still like thinking about like the initial bones marketing where it was like, you don't need to prime these to paint them. And so if I don't need to prime, I don't see any reason to. Like, just because that's the using as intended. Yeah, I just plan. I've always got some. Remember though, Eat to Surface, I often work on like resin busts and stuff that's not Reaper. So I'll just work on something else because I have other projects going. I'll just think, oh well, these are some bones that I probably want to paint coming up, and I'll just pre-prep them. And then I'll just work for that one night. I can work on another project. It's not a big deal. So, hey, El Miedo. It's good to see you come back. I was just about to take a break. We were just working on the yellow. We were doing the final kind of highlights on her yellow dress. And then we're going to start mapping in some freehand on the back here. I want to kind of do a tree of life kind of thing. But we're going to have to simplify the design I found because it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a little bit too difficult for this scale. So part of our stream today is going to be about that. It's going to be about adapting a freehand design you really like down to a 28 millimeter scale because it does take some correction. So I'm going to put this lady down here. We'll turn her around so you all can see her pretty face. And then I'm going to focus in there. You can all hang out and look at Lysette while I get a stretch on. Thanks, Almeida. Yeah, this is Lysette. She's a Bones USA model, so she's actually one of the ones that we're producing in a much harder plastic that holds really good detail. So Bones USA is the line. It's a fairly small line because we've just started doing it recently, but is growing. And they're really nice figures. They've got all the detail of metal. Like, they really are great. So I'm going to do a quick stretch break. I can't wait till I have my screen. But at least you guys can look at Widowmaker and also cute Mr. Owlbear. Too cute. But yes. Oh, it's so nice to have room to move in this office, guys, and not be crammed. It'll be nice when I have art on the walls. So if you've been sitting for a long time, get up, get a drink, take a stretch. Make your body a little bit happier with you. My favorite thing about the new gardener, guys, is that when I told him I streamed until 11, he said he would come after 11. To mow. So we may get a mower right at the end of my stream, but he seemed to actually listen. Unlike the apartment complex, you know, where we always had to get up and close the window. All right, stretchies. I'm going to get down and do my floor exercises. I'll be right back. Oh, I see what you're saying, Miss Tim. Yeah, I don't mind it on big monsters, but I'll agree with you on the little guys. I mean, I always liked doing the brown liner wash on the original ones. Nope, they actually are sculpted on, so I highlighted them back there, El Miedo. But this model actually comes with runes sculpted on the sword, so you just have to be, like, you could use a wash or some other simplified method to do them. But yeah, but the freehand on the flowers on the dress is all freehand. All right, stretchies. Off on the side here. There are still a few things here that I have to iron out. Go. Oh, All right, let's map out some freehand. Exciting. Freehand is one of my favorite things. Yeah, you could totally do something like that freehand. I would probably like it better if it was freehand because they're raised. I like runes better when they're recessed into the sword. Alrighty, but I think the original runes on this model were on the top and not recessed, so Bobby just sculpted like in line with the art. All right, Valendar, it was great seeing you. Yeah, the inside of the dress is freehand. And now, ta-da! All right, so we're gonna see if we can do that one. So the challenge will be, we have to figure out what the main branches are. And this is all pretty, I can just kind of extrapolate this. This is pretty easy. It's just like making more angles for the roots. You see how these have more like of a sharp angle? Although there are some big curves, but there are also some angular things in there. Whereas the branches are all curving. So we'll have to figure it out. And as I mentioned before, one thing you can do is squeeze it on your phone until it's about the size it would need to be to go on the dress. And then you can kind of see, like, squeeze it down until it's small, and then look at what you can see. Like, when I look at this, let me put my glasses on for one thing. That would be something, right? So when I squeeze this down, I've got Lysette right here, and I squeeze this down to a size where it would actually be on her. And I look at the main things that I can see. I can see really 4 branches. The branches that I can see are this one, and this one, and this little swirl down here because it's a little separate. So then I need to have like these 4 branches for sure. This stuff is probably going to be off the map because it's going to fall underneath the scabbard here on this stuff. So I may not need to do anything there. We'll see. And the reason I can kind of cheat is you really don't have any room to take it over onto this really narrow space here. So we want to make it a little bit off center. Now this is a circular design. It is meant to be a circle, right? So we're not really going to go with that, although I do like the way the roots can kind of like go along the bottom edge of her dress. So what we do want to do, though, is we probably want to put down marker dots, because I always do connect the dots. If you're doing a complex design, it's very advisable for you to connect the dots. And when I say connect the dots, I mean put a dot on the model to kind of mark your landmarks. So I need to put kind of a dash to show where my trunk is, which probably is going to be somewhere over here. I need to put a dot here, probably a dot at the bottom, and then a dot here to show where exactly my arc needs to be. And then I can kind of like draw a line even, kind of like flesh out my trunk and draw a line right to that dot from my trunk. Then I need to do this line, that line, at least the start of them, do little stub lines. And I probably, I don't know if I want to do a dot out here. Because all up here, I'm probably going to just be kind of freehanding. Going to kind of be extrapolating. But if you wanted to, you could put a dot up at, say, okay, well, I need to go straight up from the trunk and then over a little bit, and then I should put a dot right where that limb comes out, right? Maybe, and then once I've got that dot, I should go down a little bit and put another dot just under it for this limb. You know, so you could do that. Kind of put markers out. Because then when you start to just draw your basic shape, if something is too close or too far away or too weird, you're going to be able to pick it up right away and shift it quickly before you have a lot drawn in. Yeah, resin pours are fiddly. My boyfriend's really good at them. I haven't even attempted one yet. So it's just like something where I'm just like, I was never interested in doing it, so I never got into it. All right, so we need a dark green. And I think I want, let's see here. We've been using Wilderness with a little bit of, I think we're using walnut to shade it. Where is my Wilderness green? That's dragon green. That's not the right green. That's ancient oak. There we go. Wilderness green. Wilderness. So we are going to use Wilderness for our tree. And as I mentioned, when you're using, when you're mapping out dark freehand over light, you can run into a problem because if you make a mistake, it can be very hard to get those light colors to cover over that mistake if you're using a dark paint. But you can kind of get around that by using a thinned paint at the beginning. I need to shake that a little bit better. So I'm going to thin this way down so it's more like a sketch. And that's going to be much easier to cover up if I make a mistake and have to wipe out one of these dark lines. So about 4 drops of Wilderness. And then I think I'm going to go at least 3 drops of water. Let's see how that goes. I need it to show up, but I don't want it to show up very strongly. I just need it so it can be like a sketching tool, like a really light pencil line of paint. Except only if you had green pencil. Though colored pencil is terrible to sketch with. Don't do it. Sketch with your graphite. It's much easier to take up lines. I actually drew something 2D the other day. Which is so weird. Because I haven't done a lot of sketching recently. I do painting more than I do my 3D art takes up more time than my 2D art. All right, so when you're using a large brush, you definitely want to unload it. I want to be able to draw a fine line. This might be too thin. I can barely see it. So I think I'm going to drop 1 more drop of Wilderness in there. I went a little bit too light. I should have gone 2 to 1. Oh yeah, yes, the instructor for the water effects class, like that's a ton of work to prep all that stuff. Do say thank you. Let's see if this helps a little bit. I always forget that Wilderness can be a little bit more transparent when you hit it with a lot of water. But yeah, we've always tried to get instructors for ReaperCon that take it seriously and really have a lot of pride in their teaching and their work. So saying thank you to your instructor is never a bad idea. That's a little better. So if I put this on my nail, I can see it. It's pretty faint, but that's okay. Like I said, the fainter it is when you draw your original design, the easier it is to cover over if you do some mistakes. Yeah, water effects is, Woodland Scenic's water effects are easy. Resin pour is not easy. I've done water effects. I don't have Spirit Beast out, or I'd show them to you. Though I like to use a combo of sculpted water and then water effects. It's kind of where my happy spot is. Let's see. I need my tree. There's my tree. All right. So if I look at this, I'm always breaking this down geometrically. So I need to have a simple way to look at it. So I need to look at this and say, all right, how many of these? I think that tree is at the 3/4 mark. So like if we took this circle and we divided it into quarters, then what I'm seeing is where the tree branches is about that halfway mark up, halfway up the circle. And if I lay down like a quarter here, this branch here is right in the middle of that, so it's halfway across. And if we take this quarter, this half of our circle, this half, and we divide it in half, that's where our trunk is. So most good art does have some geometry to it, and it has some balance to it. So if you can figure out those just by breaking it down, that's why the first rule of freehand is always break down the shapes into their simplest components. And so in this case, the simplest shape is a circle. And if you quarter it, you can get some landmarks in addition to our connect the dots. This helps our dots, but we need to know where to put our trunk. So now I know that if I do a circle map out, then 3/4 over is that trunk. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to kind of go, it might end up more of an oval because of the shape of her skirt. But what I want to do now is define how far up and down and out my design is going to be. So I think the highest point is going to be here. So that's the highest point of the highest branch, won't go beyond that line up here. That's what that line is for. And then I need to know how far down my roots are going to go. And again, I want to space it kind of evenly. So if I leave this much space up here, I'm going to leave this much space down here. And then we have to figure out now that is about, it's a little more than the length of my brush, right? Actually, it is almost perfectly the length of my brush. See that? Almost. It's a tiny bit more. So that means I can use my brush as a guide. And we do this all the time in art class, using our pencil as a guide. So totally a thing. So then if I look at my brush and I just extend it a little further, I can get that my design goes out to here. I might be able to fit almost the whole thing. And then the other side of the design, if I put my brush there, goes out to just over this fold. Tiny dots, little tiny dots, like measles. They will look like measles. And that's a little high, I can see, because if you look now, the space between these two is more. So I'm going to lower this dot just a little bit. And this is why I decided to use thinner paint, because that is going to allow me to just touch these up so easily. You can't post a link on here, but if you're on the Reaper Discord, Duchess, you can post a link on there. I think they have probably a show-off channel or something where you can post your work. I'm not happy with either of these. I think I want to be halfway in the middle. So I'm actually going to take some yellow and cover over the top of them a little bit. Block them out. Block out my little dots. Which is fairly fast and easy, as you can see, because I kept my greens so pale. So it doesn't take much work to cover up two tiny little dots. Now I can more look at, because the other thing to consider here is that the dress is stretching, right? It's kind of stretching and it's kind of going up. So I think I've got to use my gut here. Use my gut, and I think I do want right in the middle of those two previous dots. Something like that, maybe a little bit lower. That's about right. We'll start there. I still feel like I'm a little bit scrunched up here, but the folds make it kind of distended. The folds make it hard to judge. So we'll use that roughly as a map, and we'll go from there. It's more of a cross than it is a pure circle, but it's a good framework, so we'll work on it. Now, what I need to do is I don't want to just do a circle down here because my roots actually have spaces between them, right? There's not a solid circle down here. The little roots just reach out and hit points. So what I do need to do is I need to quarter my circle, and I need to look at where on there I need this point to be. So when I quarter my circle design, more or less, it's going to be down a little bit from that edge. But if you look at it, this one comes up almost perfectly. It's just a little bit below on my quartered design. So this little root comes up pretty much to that mark right there. Now, I may not want it up that much because it's going to be flaring, right? The dress is kind of going out there. I don't know if I want my root. I may keep my root, as I mentioned, this may become more of an oval because I kind of want my roots to go along the hem of the skirt and kind of go over there. But I don't know. This is where you decide whether you're going to alter the design. Like you always start, guys. Like, and actually let me take a second to talk about this because this is an important part of how I work. So inevitably you have seen me grab visual references, animals and designs and colors. And then I just like seem to kind of throw it out and move aside from it. It's springboarding off of the initial idea. You still want to have a design that you're working off of. It's important to have something to start with. But if, while you are executing it, you're like, oh, you know what? It makes more sense to have the roots just go all along the bottom of the dress and not go up into that circle, even if my main design stays here. Do it. If that's what your gut says is going to look better or make more sense, do it. Just because you found a design doesn't mean you have to do it exactly. Just because the design goes up here doesn't mean that your design has to go upward here. You know, as long as it looks good, all is fair in love and art. So, you know, just do it. I never stick like 100% to a freehand design or a visual reference. I use it to inform my decisions until it is no longer useful, and then I discard it. And that is like the best advice I can give you on this kind of thing. Don't get hung up on trying to do it exactly the way you see somebody else do it or exactly the way the animal is. If the sculpt doesn't make that easy or makes it impossible, don't be sad. Just kind of work with it the best you can. It's going to be fine. All right, so that said, I am going to use this still as a reference, but I'm going to go down from here, down to my hem, and put another dot down there. It's kind of a sploosh, actually. But that, I think, is going to equivalent to where these roots go out to. And I'll still have an arc, I just won't have as much of an arc. And then over here, I need where the other roots come up. And we already knew that we wanted that to be slightly below our 50% mark, right? So down here. So that lets our roots have a nice point where they can come out. Now I need to kind of look at another demarcator, which is how much room do those roots really take up? So let's take in our brush, do our quarter. Now we're going to do quarters vertically though. And so here's our about halfway. So if we look down, we see that if we were to cut this half in half, our root here, which is our highest point of our roots, our root design, is just a bit under like 50% of 50%. So it's just under, a bit under. Like if I look at the halfway mark, it's close. But if like halfway up my brush, there's a little bit more space from here to there than there is from there to the bottom roots. So that means that if I've got a center mark, which is around here, and I drop down about half of that, I want to drop down just a touch more and put another dot. And I did actually put a tiny dot in there. Yeah, the AK stuff is pretty great for water effects, for sure. Like, some of their stuff is solvent-based, and that's what I don't like about it. Although you can get the best effects with some of that stuff. So decide on your own what you're going to do. So I'm going to say there for the highest point of that root. And once I have that mark, I can look at our tree again. So since this is a complicated design, there's going to be a lot of dots, but we are going to start connecting them soon. So if I drop just straight down the middle, you can see the top of this root is going to end up just slightly to the left of my brush, right? So if I've got my halfway mark, and I'm just like, you know, I'm generalizing here, but for the most part, that root, because I like this root, I like the way it comes up and goes down, so I'm going to keep it. It's just a little bit to the left. So that means that I take my paint and I put a dot a little bit to the left of this. Yeah, like that. And now I can actually do some connected dots with one more mark. I can actually start connecting my dots. So I've got that, and now I need my trunk. So if I've got a center mark, We decided my trunk, because here's the top of the center, the bottom of the center. And then if we go to halfway, and then we go to half here, this is where our trunk is. Water-based. Good. Yeah, I approve of water-based. That's why my paint line is water-based. Told Ed, Reaper never really wanted to mess with solvents, and I was really happy about that. All right, so we've got all these marks. What do these marks mean? Well, these are root, and that's a trunk. And when we look, we see we got kind of a shallow curve coming. It's not really a really sharp, like right angle curve. It's more shallow. So let's map that in. Our first initial freehand line. Excitement. Trunk to there. So really, want to come up and connect these dots. And this is going to come up because these guys are going to be these branches. And now I'm going to look at these two top branches, the two heavy top branches. These guys come out of the same thing, and it's almost in the middle of the trunk. It's just a little bit off center because that's more interesting. So I'm probably right to make it about there. It goes out a little bit. Then it's going to come up in a couple of different arcs. Actually, I probably could do this entire arc because I have the dots for it. So remember, top dot there was this mark up here. This one, the top branch. So that was top dot. And then curve it around and bring it down to trunk. And trunk, you'll notice I'm going a little bit to the right of trunk here, and that's because the trunk is pretty thick. So we'll fill in that area, but you can go a little bit off around it because you're going to widen it out. So let's go and do this branch then, because we can. Because we know it goes up to the top of the design. Oh, I forgot to get back in focus. 1 second. Bonk. Thanks, Pizentios. Yeah, it's kind of chartreuse, right? I glazed with a little bit of warmer yellow for the front, which took it more neutral, but now I really like it this way, though. It's not a color that you see on miniatures very often. I think that's why I like it, but I also really like greenish yellows and yellowish greens. We decided at the start of this model which yellow we were going to use, a greenish yellow or an orangish yellow. So, all right, and we want this to curve down and meet up with our little... And you can kind of go sketchy. Like you can see how I'm using like little brush strokes to map in this arc. Once again, this is more the design that we're going for, but we're just starting our very bare basics at this time. And we want to make sure that our roots go down here. So I'm going to go and do our first angle coming here. I'm going to, if I like my line, if I like the shape, this is where I'm going to start making this a little bit more solid as well. So what I'm doing here is you can see the main, all of the dots aside, the main movement here is kind of a reverse C, right? This branch, these branches here, and the roots kind of making a big C. So that is what we have started with, is our big C, plus our little bent root down here, you know, because we'll fill in a bunch of geometry down there. But right now, we're just looking at the very, very simple. Now, one reason I left the middle dot here, kind of off center from this C, is that that's where I'm going to sprout out this branch. So we'll try to put that guy, we'll just start the little sprout. We want to go slow on these branches. We want to leave enough space between them to get all of this interest in. So we can start just a little spur, just that comes off there. Although this is where we're going to have to really work it because, and what I may do is because I'm working so small, guys, but I have to fit in these 2 branches because I really like this little curly one and I like the big one. I may actually combine these 2. Kind of like these all come off of a big central trunk here. These 2 branches all come off this central trunk. I may make a central trunk here where there isn't one, just to be able to take both of these branches off of this one line. Because when you start taking this design, and remember, shrinking it down to the size where you need it on a miniature, look how tiny those lines get. Like, yeah, we could do it. It would, but it wouldn't necessarily look as good. It certainly wouldn't look as good on tabletop. It would be kind of like, what is that? And so I tend to like my freehand to carry, like if I look at this one out here, I can see, like, even here, like, you know, more than a foot away, 2 feet away, I can see that this is a flower design, a vine and flower design. Like there's enough of it there that I can see it. And so I don't want to do something so intricate on the back of her that that all you see is a blur or a jumble from a distance. I would like to simplify it enough so that when it's on the tabletop, you can see there's a tree. So that's why simplifying your freehand is, you know, really a cool thing. Oh, I could do it. It's just, you know, like, I can do those fine lines. Like, no question at all that I can do it. I've done things that fine. But at this scale, I want it to read. I want it to definitely be readable when it's sitting there on the table. And so I can't go with all that essentially interference in the design, or I'll lose that. You lose something with intricacy. You lose easy readability unless you make a very strong shape at the core, and then you do a lot of little fine stuff, but the strong shape doesn't get interrupted so much that you can't read it. So it's this balance, and it's your goal, right? You have to ask yourself, what is my goal on this? Is it the Easter egg? You know, which is something I often do go for. I often go for the Easter egg, by which I mean it looks like a nice model, and then you pick it up and look at it close, and then you go, holy crap. You know, that's the kind of model I do tend to like to do. But there's also something to be said, especially at this scale, because everybody's so tiny, for having it still look good on the tabletop and still be readable and still you can see it. And we can definitely do a little bit of intricacy on it, but I want that main design to be really strong, probably stronger than it is on the actual initial sketch that we were using. But and yeah, if you do a really simple tree of life, like I could have gone with, originally I Googled simple tree of life, by the way, and the stuff that I was getting was more like that. And so, yeah, you could just start painting a trunk, right? And just do the branches top and bottom. But I tend to like off-center artistic designs, and I thought the flow of this one just really, I think looked good with this model, because look at all the motion, like the motion of her hair, like, and the motion of the dress swinging to the side, you know, she's got a lot of great flow on her. And I felt that this was a better suit for her, her design. This design better suited her than going with something static like that, where it's very centered. So off-balance designs tend to imply more motion. And often, if you have a model that's somewhat boring, but you can put an off-center design, freehand design on it, you will significantly bump up the visual interest of that model. Just make sure you don't distract too much from the model. Freehand is its own beast. Like, I will eventually put together a class on freehand, because you can simplify it down to the connect the dots, simple geometrics, but then the choice of the design that you use, all those factors come in, right? Is where is it? Like, I would never do something like this on the front of a model, because then that's the only thing you're going to look at. But on the back of the model, where we don't have a lot to look at, but we still have enough, then it does make sense to give, you know, the viewer the reward of turning the model around and they see something cool, right? So all of those things are things to think about when you are looking at freehand. I need to put another branch in. But can you see how mapping this in really lightweight makes it easier to adjust too? So I think I'm going to make this a branch. I'm going to make it come, how far over does that? That's right, it's going to go in the middle, isn't it? And the middle is around there. So, yeah, that's about right. I'm going to do my little circle, little swirly, spirally branch here. So just a little bit of suggestion. You can see how faint it is. That makes it very easy to correct. This is why I don't often I'm doing light freehand, like gold or silver freehand on a darker background color. And I find that that is easier. Tiago, hey, it's the new office, except that it's still kind of in a shambles. In the coming weeks, you will see the office come together into a really nice area. But right now, I love the new house. I love, super, super, super finger hearts. Totally love the new house. We're still unpacking. We need so much. We've got, most of our stuff's out of the old place, but this weekend we need to get the paintings over. We have a lot of art. So we have to do that. A lot of stuff in the pantry. Some stuff left in the gaming closet, the gaming room closet, or the painting room closet. So now we're getting where you can see. So now we're starting to see elements of our design, right? Now you've got that one curve, and you've got the little curly cues, so you can see where that is. Once you figure out your anchors, once you kind of draw in kind of your anchoring shapes, then you can just go nuts with extrapolating on the design. But you want your big anchors first. So once you can see the shape, then you've got a lot more freedom. Once you know how far you're going this way and that way and all the way, it makes it a lot easier. So I think the next thing I'm going to do is fill out the other side of the trunk and connect it up with the root over here. Yeah, I love having an office. And technically the hobby room is for both David and me, but in reality, when he's working from home, it's his office. He's got it all set up already. So that's more going to be his room, but I have my own little creative room here. So, and we can share his room when we both want to work together. So I think this is wonderful. I love it. I have my own wall space. I can finally put up some of my prints that I have that mean stuff to me that I really like. I think that it's just me that this is a personal belief and not for everyone, but I personally believe that in a relationship, it's really advisable if each person has their own little bit of kind of private space that's just for them. At least for me, if you're dealing with introvert people us geeks, I just find that it's so valuable. It's so valuable to have something like that. All right, so I know that my roots go up to here, and I can see that it's kind of a curve, so I want it to go down and then up. So I'm actually going to start with the roots here, I think. And go down, and then go up. Got that little curve started there. But yeah, we still need to unpack a lot. There's tons of boxes. Yeah, I love David, and we managed to get through a year and a half of COVID, living in very close proximity in a very small apartment and not having our individual space. But I think we're both happier when we have a little bit of space just for us. So I'm glad that we have, he was like, I don't know, is this house too big for us? And I'm like, no, it's not. That said, I can't wait to host a paint club. Or something. Yeah, it looks like I will be able to get into the right branches over here. Since I mapped out my circle in advance, I will be able to do this little curly Q branch over here. Yeah, totally, Duchess. Yeah, the headphones help. That's the noise canceling headphones I have. I love them. All right, so one thing, if I'm going to do this curly Q on the right, this one's a little lower, so kind of look at, that's why I say once you've got main features mapped in, the rest of everything gets so much easier, because then you just have to ask, okay, is this little curly Q higher or lower than this curly Q? Oh, it's up higher, and it's simpler. So then I know that I want to make this little curly Q come up higher.